we have prepared this front portion of the yoke till now, and now just flip it over onto the back side, and we have this back portion, 3 rows done for the back portion as well, the 1 foundation row and 2 rows of the pattern. We are going to create the back portion of the yoke now. So as we already know, we have a marker on either side of this in the very armpit here. So we are not going to work in this shell, but just 1 shell before this shell into this one. We are going to tie our thread, our yarn, and we'll begin from here. Into the 3rd DC of this shell, tie your yarn. So beginning from this shell till the 2nd last shell just before this marker shell on the other side. We are not going to work in this shell as well. Till here, till the 2nd last shell, we'll be working for the yoke panel of the back side. So then let's begin. Insert the hook into this 3rd DC of this shell where we have our yarn, and then take out the loop. Work 6 chains, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. First chain 3 counts as a DC, next chain 3 is included in the pattern. Then yarn over and work 1 DC. In the same stitch, a V stitch is created here. We have left this marker shell as we did for the front side. Then into the next shell in the 3rd DC, work 1 V stitch, 1 DC, chain 3 and 1 DC. In the same 3rd DC of the shell below, simple round, round 1 of our pattern. Again in the next shell, work a V stitch. So we have 3 V stitches created till now. Just like this, keep creating a V stitch atop every 3rd DC of the shell ahead till you reach the 2nd last shell just before the marker shell, where we will stop working the V stitches, the last V to be worked in that one. So here I have reached my last shell and I worked my V as well. V stitch done. So then for the next round, turn the work. And then insert the hook into this chain 3 space, work a slip stitch to reach this chain 3 space, then chain 1. We are beginning the next round. Insert the hook into the same chain 3 space, work 1 SC, then yarn over and work 1 HDC into the same chain 3 space, yarn over again, and this time work 1 DC in the same chain 3 space. So we worked the slip to get into the chain 3 space, worked 1 SC, 1 HDC and 1 DC. And nextly, into every V stitch ahead, we'll just work our normal shell with 5 DCs. So in the next V stitch, create a shell with 5 DCs. 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. Again, yarn over in the next V stitch, create 5 DCs which form a shell here. This is a round 2 of the pattern. And 5. And into every V stitch ahead, just keep working 1 shell with 5 DCs just before the last V. Till the 2nd last V, we have to work the shell with 5 DCs. So I've worked my shells all over in this round, and in this last V, yarn over, insert the hook in this chain 3 space, work 1 DC, then yarn over again into the same chain 3 space, work 1 HDC, and then into the same chain 3 work 1 SC like this. So this ends this row here. So we are just shaping for the armpit on the back side. Now turn the work, and we are going to work slip stitches twice. So work one slip stitch in the next stitch and one more slip stitch to reach atop this DC here. And then at the top of this DC, work 3 chains. And then next is a round of V's. So yarn over, and in this third DC of the next shell, just create a V, working 1 DC, chain 3 and 1 DC in the third DC of the shell below, like this. Yarn over, in the next shell again work a V stitch in the third DC, 1 DC, chain 3 and 1 DC in the third DC of the shell. So we had slipped twice to reach atop the DC, and then chain 3, and then we started working the V stitches. Reach till the second last shell. I'll see you there. So then this is my last shell. The second last shell, I'll just work one more V here, the normal V, 1 DC, chain 3, 1 DC, and then yarn over. We have this last V. Atop this first DC, just work 1 DC, and this ends this row here. Chain 3 and turn the work. After the V, we work the shell. So yarn over, and in the first V stitch and into every V stitch ahead, we are just going to work a shell with 5 DCs. So just work 5 DCs in this V stitch below. 2, 3, 4 and 5. Chain 3 and 5 DCs in the shell. Again in the next V stitch work a shell. Two shells created. Just like this, work a shell into every V ahead till you reach the end. I'll see you at the end here. So I have worked my second last shell, one more V stitch to go, one more shell to go. So then yarn over, work 5 DCs in this last V stitch below. Last shell created, then yarn over, and in this top third chain, insert the hook and work 1 DC. This row ends here. Chain 3. So this is the armpit shaping that we carried out well. Then chain 3 and work, turn the work. After the shells we work the V, so then yarn over, and in the third DC of this next shell, work a V stitch, work 1 DC, chain 3 and 1 DC in the third DC of the shell below. And in every shell ahead till the last shell, just keep working 1 stitch into every third DC of every shell. Two V's created. So just carry on like this till you reach the end. I'll see you at the end. One more V to go. So in this last shell also work a V stitch in the third DC, 1 DC, chain 3 and 1 DC in the third DC of the shell below. Then yarn over, and in the top third chain insert the hook, work 1 DC. This round ends here. So until now, onto the back panel of the yoke, we have worked 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 and 8 rounds till now, including the foundation round as well. And then because we are not going to give much shape for the neck on the back panel of the yoke, just carry on like this for 6 more rounds straight, and I'll see you after 6 rounds. Beginning with chain 3, the row begins with chain 3 and then you begin round 1 or round 2 and then end the row with a DC. Work 6 more rounds. So here I have completed the next 6 rows of the back panel as well, and now we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 and 15 rounds done for the back panel, including the foundation row. And now, just like we created this small shoulder portion on both the sides in the front yoke, we'll be creating it on the back yoke as well. So then after 5 shells from every side, both the sides, I'm putting a marker like this to demarcate this shoulder section, and we'll be creating these sections now. So where I have my yarn already joined, I'll first work onto this section a few more rows and then the border rows. So then chain 3 and turn the work, and after the shells we work the V's. So then yarn over, and in the third DC of the next shell work a V stitch, 1 DC, chain 3 and 1 DC in the third DC of the shell. Again in the next shell, in the third DC work a V stitch, 1 DC, chain 3, 1 DC in the third DC of the shell. Just create a V stitch till you reach the marker. Four V stitches created till now, 1 more to go in my case. Having worked my last V, take out this marker and in the very first DC of the next shell, insert the hook, work 1 DC. This ends this round here. The demarcation is created for this section. Chain 3, turn the work. After the V stitches, we work shells, then yarn over, and in the V stitch, work a shell with 5 DCs. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And then into every V stitch ahead, work a shell with 5 DCs. I'll see you in the end. I have worked all my shells. Then yarn over, and in this top third chain, insert the hook, work 1 DC here to end this round here. So then we'll be working the border. So chain 2 and turn the work. I'm just showing 1 row of border. In the next DC, work 1 HDC. And then after this row, please go for 2 more rows of the border. Total 3 border rows we are working. In the next DC again, work 1 HDC, and in every DC ahead, just keep working 1 HDC, simple round. Just like this, keep continuing. I'll see you in the end. So I've reached the end. Yarn over, and in this top third chain, insert the hook, work 1 HDC to end this round here, and work 2 more HDC rows for the border. Just like this, onto the other section also, join your yarn on this side and just proceed to finish this section likewise, completing the portion of this pattern and then the border. So here I have completed the borders on every shoulder portion, and I'm going to sew the shoulder sections together. and I have just put it on the wrong side up. The wrong side is facing up on both the sides, and to hold the two pieces well in place, just hold the corner stitches with the markers, and that will do. Just gently put the two pieces together, and I have my thread already joined in one of the corners on this side, and I'm simply just passing my needle to both these pieces of the shoulders like this. Simple sewing from beneath the two strands of both the panels like this, beneath the very top two strands on both the sides, and grab every stitch to bring a nice and neat sew. Remember, this is the wrong side of the two pieces facing up that I'm sewing it onto. Simple. Just keep stitching like this till you reach the corner. And don't at all tighten or stretch the stitches. So I've reached the end onto the other side of this shoulder section, and in the corner I'll just put a few knots here, and then secure the thread here only. Mostly I work backwards through the stitches to secure a little more extra thread. So it's sewn well, and let's see, this is how it looks on the front. The stitches have come up really neat and clean. I'll simply secure the thread a little onto the back, on the way back, like this. Having secured the thread well, cut the thread and it's done on this side. A little seam comes on the wrong side, but that's fine. See how clean it looks. Just like this on the other side as well. Put the two shoulder portions facing the wrong faces up, and just put the corners well placed onto one another and sew the other shoulder as well. So here I have my shoulders well joined on both the sides. And nextly, I am going to tie my yarn on this side anywhere. I have tied it just in this chain 3, beginning chain 3, in the very center of this armpit on this side, and we are going to work a little border. So then chain 2, 1 and 2, yarn over, in the next DC work 1 HDC, again yarn over, in the next DC work 1 HDC, yarn over, in the next DC work 1 HDC, and into every DC ahead all the way round, just keep moving, working 1 HDC atop every DC below. Simple round. Again yarn over, work 1 HDC in the next DC. Just keep moving and working 1 HDC atop every DC below. Just go all the way. I'll see you at the end here. So I've reached the end, worked it all the way around. This is how it looks. And then in this top second chain, insert the hook, work a slip stitch to join this round here. One round completed here. Basically we have 2 rounds on this side. This is how it looks. This ribbing really looks good. Then we'll go for one more round. So then chain 3, yarn over, and in the next HDC work 1 DC. This is the round of DCs. Yarn over again, in the next HDC just work 1 DC and just keep working 1 DC into every HDC below. Simple round. On top every HDC just keep working 1 DC all the way round and come back. I'll see you at the end. So I've reached the end, working my last few stitches. This is the round of DCs and we have worked DCs all the way round. And then in this top third chain, insert the hook and work a slip stitch to join this round here. So the border is done on this side. Simple border, but that really looks a strong feel to the yoke. Now I'll just cut the thread out. So secure the thread with the knot and cut it out. So now we are beginning with the sleeves. First take the circumference of the upper portion of your sleeve and then chain as much to reach that measure. In my case, I am going to chain 90. So work a slip knot and begin chaining. And because we are going to work the sleeves also in rounds, so I prefer to work a little number of chains like this, as I have chained here 10, and then insert my hook into the first chain like this, push that behind, and then again insert this into the working chain and then resume with the chaining. And this keeps the work untwisted as we have to join them in a round in the end. So I've worked all my 90 chains, then just work a slip stitch like this to join this round here, and then chain 3, yarn over into the next chain, work 1 DC, yarn over again into the next chain, work 1 DC, work 1 DC into the next chain. Simple round. We're just going to move like this, working 1 DC into every chain ahead all the way round in this round. This is the simple foundation row. So just continue like this, and in my case at the end I should have a total of 90 DCs, including first chain 3 also as a DC. So I've reached the end. Then insert the hook in the top third chain and work a slip stitch to join this round here. Please ignore the other foundation rows that are showing up. We in our pattern just have one foundation row of a DC as we just did. Then chain 6. This is the row 1 of our pattern. First chain 3 stands for the DC. Second chain 3 set is included in the pattern. Then yarn over, work 1 DC in the same stitch. A V stitch is created. Then skip 4 DCs below, yarn over in the 5th DC below, work 1 V stitch again, 1 DC, chain 3 and 1 DC. Simple round of V, the first row of a pattern. Yarn over again, skip 4 DCs below. In the 5th DC below, work a V stitch, 1 DC, chain 3 and 1 DC. So just keep continuing working 1 V stitch into every 5th DC ahead. I'll see you at the end here. So I've worked till second last V, 1 more V to go in my case. So skip 4 DCs below before working the last V. In the 5th stitch below, work the last V stitch, 1 DC, chain 3 and 1 DC in the same stitch. And then to join this round here, from the bottom where we began chaining for the V, count 1, 2 and 3, 1, 2 and 3, and in the third chain insert the hook, work a slip stitch to join this round here. Simple round. Then we'll go for the round 2 of a pattern. Insert the hook into this next chain 3 space of the next V and work a slip stitch, then chain 3. This chain 3 stands for a DC. Then yarn over, work 4 DCs in the same chain 3 space of this V below. A shell is created. Then yarn over into the next V, just create the same shell working 5 DCs in this V stitch below. 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. Simple round of shells. Into the next V, work a shell with 5 DCs. Into the next V, work a shell with 5 DCs. Simple round, just keep creating a shell into every V ahead, and I'll see you at the end here. So here I have worked my last shell as well. Then into this top third chain, insert the hook, work a slip stitch to join this round here. Second row of the pattern completed, then slip stitch twice to reach the third DC of this shell, and then chain 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. Then yarn over into the same stitch, work 1 DC, a V stitch is created. After the shells, we work the V's. Yarn over again into the next shell in its third DC, work a V stitch, 1 DC, chain 3 and 1 DC. Another V stitch created. Simple round of V's. Just keep creating V stitches atop the third DC of every shell ahead. Then into every shell ahead, keep creating a V stitch. Go all the way around. I'll see you at the end here. So I've worked my last V as well, and then to join this round in this top third chain here, insert the hook, work a slip stitch to join this round here. Insert the hook in this chain 2 space of the next V, work a slip stitch, then chain 3. Again we are going to work the round of shells, so then work 4 DCs in the same chain 3 space of this V stitch below. 3, 4 and 5. I'm counting first chain 3 also as a DC, so now 5 DC is completed. Just like this, into the next we work 5 DCs to work a shell. 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. Simple round of shells. Work 1 shell into every V stitch ahead all the way round. I'll see you at the end here. So I've reached the end, worked my last shell as well. Insert the hook in this top third chain, work a slip stitch to join this round here. And nextly, we are going to shape for the armpit now here only. So we want to skip this shell altogether. So just work slip stitches atop every DC of the shells loosely. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then into the next shell we want to reach the third DC of the next shell. So work 3 more slip stitches to reach this third DC of the next shell. So we have completely left this shell. We are not going to work into this one, but till the shells just before and after this shell. So then chain 6. First chain 3 stands for a DC, next chain 3 is included in the pattern. Work a DC. In the same DC below, a V stitch is created again. So this is the shell in which we are not going to work. But just before that, we have to stop a last shell here in this one. So for the recognition, in this shell, in its third DC, it's better to put a marker that we have to stop here and we don't have to proceed into the next shell. So go all the way around. I'll see you there. These are the two shells in which we are working, to and fro. Then into the third DC of the next shell, work a V-stitch, 1 DC, chain 3 and 1 DC. One V-stitch is created again, and this time and a few rows ahead we are not going to work in rounds, we'll be just working to and fro. So then into the next shell again, in its third DC, work a V-stitch like this and just keep moving like this till this marker that we have put in this shell, the last V should be in this shell with the marker. So reach the second last shell, worked my second last V, take out the marker and work the last V into this shell in its third DC, 1 DC, chain 3 and 1 DC. So this last V is created and we are not going to move ahead into the next shell. So you can see the curve is created for the armpit shaping. Then for the next row, turn the work and work a slip stitch to reach the chain 3 space of this V that we are working into like this. Then chain 1, work 1 SC. Yarn over, work 1 HDC into the same chain 3 space of this V. Yarn over, work 1 DC into this very space here. So into this V, we created it like this. Then into the next V, just work a normal shell with 5 DCs. 2, 3, 4 and 5. And we are going to work a normal shell of 5 DCs till the second last V. So leave the very last V until the second last V. Keep continuing working 5 DCs into every V stitch all the way around. I'll see you there. So I'm reaching this marker V, one more shell with 5 DCs to be worked into this one. So in the second last V, work a shell with 5 DCs, 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5, one shell, and then in this last V, work 1 DC. Then yarn over, work 1 HDC, and then insert the hook, work 1 SC to end this round here. Just like this, the beginning V stitch, we created it here. Then turn the work and slip stitch twice. You can see this armpit shaping taking shape. Then slip stitch twice to reach the DC here of this V stitch. So we have reached the DC. We slip stitch twice to reach the atop the DC, and then chain 3, yarn over. After the shells we work V's, so then into every shell we are going to work a V stitch. Yarn over into the third DC, work a V stitch, 1 DC, chain 3, 1 DC in the third DC of the shell below. Simple round. Yarn over into the next shell in its third DC, work a V stitch, 1 DC, chain 3 and 1 DC in the third DC of the shell. Simple round of V's. Go all the way round till the last shell, second last shell, or 5 DCs and not till the last one, till the second last one. And I'll see you here. So I'm just going to work one more V in the second last shell below. And it's third DC, work a V stitch, 1 DC, chain 3, 1 DC, and then to end this round here, yarn over in this DC, the very first stitch here, work 1 DC atop this DC. So this ends this row here. So you can see how beautifully this armpit shaping has been done. And this is the exact armpit center. Now just put the knot, cut out the thread, secure it really well. If you keep it like this, you can see this shape is coming. Nextly, onto this side, we will just work a little border. As I already told, we just have one row of foundation of DCs, and I have prepared my other sleeve as well. So onto this side, we'll just work a little border here. So here in the center of this armpit, where we had our first chain 3, I'm tying my thread. Though you can tie the yarn anywhere, I suggest you to tie it here. It will keep the sleeve clean on all other sides. So then insert the hook, pull up a loop and chain 3. 1, 2 and 3, yarn over. This first chain 3 also counts as the DC. Into the next DC, work 1 DC. So we have 2 DCs. Yarn over. And we'll be working 7 DCs in a row. So work the third DC into the next DC. Yarn over, work the fourth DC into the next DC. Then work the fifth DC into the next DC. 5. Work the 6th DC into the next DC. And yarn over, work the 7th DC into the next DC. So we have 7 DCs in a row. Then yarn over, insert the hook into the 8th DC, work it halfway. Work the DC halfway, yarn over, insert into the 9th DC below, work the DC halfway, then yarn over, work them together like this. So we have decreased 8 and 9 stitches together. So after working 7 DCs in a row, we decrease 8th and 9th stitches together. Again, work 7 DCs in a row. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and one more, 7. 7 in a row got completed. Then just reduce 8th and 9th DCs together. Work 8th the halfway, work the 9th one halfway, and then work them together like this. Simple round. Just keep moving like this in this round. So again, 7 DCs in a row, 1 DC atop every DC below, till you reach a number of 7. And then work the 8th and the 9th stitches together. So then yarn over, work the 8th one halfway, then yarn over, work the 9th one halfway, then yarn over, work them together. Go all the way around in this round. I'll see you at the end. So I've reached the end. Work my 7 DCs last time in a row, and then just reducing this last 2 DCs, and then in this top third chain, insert the hook, work a slip stitch to join this round here. So one round of border done on this side. So nextly, we are going to work one more row of border. So then chain 3 and work 3 DCs in the same stitch below where we are already joined. 2 and 3. We are working small shells with picots in between. Then chain 3. Work a picot with this chain 3 like this. Yarn over, work 3 more DCs in the same stitch. 1, 2 and 3. So small shell with the picot in between is created. Simple. In the same stitch we have created it all, and then we are going to skip 4 DCs below. 1, 2, 3 and 4, and then into the 5th one again we'll repeat the same pattern. Yarn over, skip 4 DCs, into the 5th DC work 3 DCs, 1, 2 and 3, then work 3 chains, 1, 2 and 3, create a picot with the 3 chains here, and then yarn over, work 3 more DCs in the same stitch below. 1, 2 and 3. Simple edging, skip 4 DCs, yarn over in the 5th one again, work 3 DCs, then chain 3, work a picot with this chain 3, yarn over, work 3 more DCs in the same stitch below. 1, 2 and 3. So this little shell with the picot in between is created again, just like this. Skipping 4 DCs below. Just keep working into every fifth DC below this little shell with the picot in between, and I'll see you at the end. So I've worked almost till the end, reached the end, and one more this shell to go. So then skip 4 DCs below, yarn over into the 5th DC, work 3 DCs, 1, 2 and 3, chain 3 to work a picot like this, yarn over, 3 more DCs in the same stitch. The last shell with this picot is created here. And then to end this round here, in this top 3rd chain of the beginning shell, insert the hook, work a slip stitch to join this round here. This finishes this border as well. Tie the knot, cut out the thread, and our sleeve is ready completely now. We have bordered it on this side, and this armpit shaping is done well on this side. So this little cap sleeve is finished. Please sew in the loose ends wherever. So nextly we are going to sew the sleeves with the yoke. And so then turn the yoke from inside out to bring the wrong side of the yoke up like this. Lay it on the table, and then the sleeve also take the inside out. The wrong side should be facing up, and now just place them together. And nextly, as you can see, we had this shell that we didn't work into. We have a marker also in this 3rd DC of the shell, and also here we have a shell that we didn't work into. So just put this marker, because this is the center of the armpit, put the marker, one marker into both the stitches together, and then loosely place the 2 pieces like this together, and without stretching the pieces at all, just grab one stitch from the yoke and the adjacent stitch from this sleeve piece, and keep putting markers, holding them with the markers. Firstly, I'm putting a marker into the exact half at the top of the shoulder to hold it well, the 2 pieces, and then just grab a stitch from both the pieces without stretching the pieces at all at equal intervals. You can use safety pins for the purpose, no trouble at all. So I've marked this side well, then turn it onto the other side, and we simply are just holding the 2 pieces together on both the sides. Just keep grabbing the adjacent stitches of both the pieces without stretching the pieces at all and at equal intervals put the markers in both the pieces together to hold them together. One more I would put here. So the markers are well put then. And from the center of the armpit, here only, I'll tie my yarn. So then into this third daisy only, which we had put the marker into, insert the hook into this shell and then into the other shell that belongs to the sleeve, and just tie them together like this. Slightly turn the work if you wish to, because we're just going to hold the two pieces together, and we're not going to sew with the needle. We'll just crochet slip stitches all along. So into the very first stitch beneath the two strands of both the sides, insert the hook, pull up the loop, and loosely into the next stitch beneath the two strands of both the pieces work a slip stitch like this. Very loosely hold the pieces and very loosely work the slip stitches. Take out the marker if you have reached one. Again, hold the pieces well in place and then try to work close slip stitches worked loosely. Make sure the slip stitches are not at all stretched or tight, so keep them loose like this. Simple way of stitching, but it really gives a great clean, neat and clean look onto the front side. So then take out this marker and then again hold the pieces together with your hands and work loose slip stitches, and we are working in the top, beneath the top two strands of both the pieces. A little seam comes, but that's fine. Just go all the way like this till you reach the beginning, and I'll see you there. So I'm almost reached the end here, working my last few slip stitches to join the two pieces together here. Work close and loose slip stitches so that almost all the stitches are covered. And then slightly before putting the knot, stretch the two pieces like this, just to even this entire thing up. And then I'm just working a knot here and cutting my thread as it's done. Secure the knot well. So one sleeve is well sewn Just like this, work the other sleeve as well, putting markers and working slip stitches all the way round. Stretch it to even the stitches. And then put a knot, cut out the thread. So this is the front portion up now, the right side facing, and you can see, you can hardly make out the seam. It really comes out very neat and clean. You can see both the sides are done. So our sleeves are well sewn now.